Why did you do board fellows? Did you get out of it what you wanted, and what did you get out of it? And what were the challenges and any advice you would give? So Adolfo, you want to start us out with the first question, then Kyle, you come in as well.
Okay, so the first question, if I understood you correctly, is why we did it, why I did the program. So it's a clear answer because has some specific kind of highlighted programs that many people apply to. One is like Berkeley Fellows, the other is Social Sector Solutions, and then IBD. They are like the three of them. They are very consulting style, so maybe you don't need to take the three of them. But it was a clear reason for me for joining HAS, in the sense that I wanted to participate in a direct way in how decisions are made and how is the internal organization and structure of nonprofits, especially the bigger the nonprofit for me was like more appealing, as it was my case, because I wanted to see how are the dynamics, the politics inside, how they take decisions when they have a very limited budget. So giving me this choice of joining the Public Health Institute, which is a very well recognized and very important institutions for public health in the Bay Area and California, I was like very, very happy to assist them. So that was the reason. Basically, known from I'm an international, so I have I come from Spain, and many times there is not that much trend about how boards work there, and it's something very not transparent in the sense that because people they don't usually join frequently the boards meeting, or just basically participate in a board. So it was something that I wanted to learn about, because I want to transition from strategy consulting to social impact or to sustainability, and I thought that was a clear choice even like at the beginning of the MBA, from the very early start, as you mentioned.
Okay, thanks, Adolfo. Kyle, how about you? Why did you decide to do board fellows?
Yeah, just like Adolfo mentioned, I came to Berkeley to get involved in community and get involved in social impact. I have a background, I'm a veteran, and worked for some nonprofits in the past for housing organizations similar to what APC is. And so this provided an opportunity to get involved in leadership at the nonprofit level in several organizations that I've worked for in the past. And I worked for Lifelong Medical, which is one of the larger federally qualified health centers in the community. Great organization. Previous to coming to Haas, I worked in health policy, particularly in Medicaid at the state level. And so FQHCs, or community clinics, they're colloquially known as, kind of work in that space and provide services to low income and the poor populations. They focus on the elderly population, but they do provide services for the homeless downtown Oakland. And so it was really cool to be able to not only be involved in not be involved in decision making, but essentially being involved in decision making at that level, but also work on a project that directly impacted kind of disadvantaged populations.
Okay, so why don't you continue, Kyle? So what were the highlights for you? What did you take away? What were the best experiences for you from being there?
Yeah, and I'll preface this with, I think I had a non-standard experience, and I'm bringing that up because I think I did what you will be told next year what not to do, and I guess I'll explain that. So I think one of the main things that we were instructed to focus on early on was making sure the project was in scope, and making sure that we weren't doing more than like what was, than like what kind of the examples that you provided. And so early on, we were given our project, which was a consulting project, and we essentially did a market landscape analysis for skilled nursing facility market, and then provided a analysis, financially and operational analysis of their internal organization. And so it ended up being a pretty big project. Unfortunately, at the time, we weren't getting credit for our work, but it was great in that I was coming from the social sector and kind of the military side of things. And so it was cool to kind of get my feet wet in a consulting type project. And I worked with, what was really cool for me with the program, I worked with so I'm a dually, I'm an MPH MBA student, and I worked with an MPP MPH student. And so we definitely provided different perspectives on the project. And I thought that was really cool. That was really valuable for me to kind of work collaboratively with a different student outside of Haas. And And it was a bear of a project. I think we actually gave our last presentation July 27th. So
Oh my.
a little outside of the time frame I think traditionally allotted for the program, but it was really cool. We really felt welcomed within the organization. Our project actually led to decisions being made at the strategic level, so it was really cool to actually provide valuable impact to the organization. And as far as what did I get out of it, I didn't go into the program thinking I was going to come out with like consulting type experience. It was really geared towards just understanding how boards work, how decisions are made, and what are all the factors that go into decisions, and what are the different stakeholders involved, particularly when you're talking with a community clinic. And when you're working among policy, you're working with different stakeholders, other homeless shelters in this case, or other healthcare providers. Just kind of understanding that ecosystem was really interesting to me, and I was really excited about it. But then kind of like the bear of a project was kind of like a bonus, if you will. I don't know if you can call it a bonus, but it was a bonus. And it was a really awesome experience for me.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. Adolfo, how about you?
So my highlight is very related to COVID, which is not a surprise and is in a sense a bit different than Kyle, because we from the very beginning, we focus a lot on the scope. And what happens was that we defined a clear scope that was like shattered in the middle of the COVID crisis, because I think it's important that we have to understand that this organization, they have a lot of effort, they have a lot of initiatives, but they work in a slightly different way than other organizations. They basically are kind of like a central support to very varied streams and research and projects. So they don't have sometimes the direct influence in all these researchers or doctors or other people that they are working in for drugs research, for community inclusion, for workforce development, for many different topics related to health or to like public health, but they don't have the final word. So the politics are very specifically, they basically, they were thinking about a scope that it was not like fully possible to develop later. So my highlight for this project that I had is don't worry, don't freak out when things are totally changed from the original idea, because I was working with Nicole. Nicole is also a friend of Kyle. She's an amazing person. It was my pair in the project, and sometimes we were a bit kind of nervous. It's like, are we actually doing what we are supposed to do, in the sense like because at the end you are between HAS and the organization, so you also have to properly represent HAS. My answer will be, don't worry, just put the passion, put the commitment on, and try to be there for them, because for this organization, what happened is with the COVID, all the budget for many of their different initiatives, it was at risk. So they have, similar to what can happen in a university, suddenly you have the budget cut, and projects that had been in research for years, they are at risk of basically stopping and being canceled, and just all that work lost. So they were very nervous inside the organization. At some points, they didn't just want 2 consultants with a formal project, they just wanted 2 people that were able to help them and to assist them in the way we could. So we deliver a big part of what it was initially stated, but in a different way. Instead of more formal consulting project, it was more, okay, like her name was Melange, and we had the luxury to work with an amazing person within the organization. So she's the COO directly, and then with the board president as well. And they were kind of like giving us specific assignments related to the original scope, but not in a, as I mentioned, in a formal way. So my highlight is be super flexible. This organization and these people inside this organization, they are going to be very welcome and very happy that we can assist them, especially with this difficult time. So don't try to be like super fixed if the plan is not originally working, because they are going to even tell you, it's like, we have to deviate from this plan. We really appreciate that you are here. So if you can also like be a bit flexible and have just be there for them. Like sometimes we think that we need to deliver the super big deliverable that is like perfect, like kind of McKinsey style, and just with a few initiatives that they like, that you put time on that, and you are passionate about that, and that you cross-check very often with them, that in this case it was enough, and I think in many cases it's going to be enough. So just as a conclusion, we help them to reassess the strategic plan, especially the communication, internal and external, of their strategic plan, because they are big organizations with very different work stream or different initiatives, and they were not happy how they communicate that. They were not happy how people understand what they do. They don't even sometimes do it like internally, even less like people from outside, especially investors and donors, which is sometimes the end goal of attracting more capital. So we put more order on that. We did research, we did benchmarking of how other organizations do it. Even in the Bay Area, there are very big foundations that they have much concise and much more clear communication strategy. So the result has been like very good. We are still in contact with them, and we are invited in a kind of like, as Kyle was mentioning, like off track. We are invited in a board meeting at the end of September. So that's kind of, and it was because at some points it was very difficult to meet with all the people during the COVID crisis. So yeah, we have a very good connection with them, and especially Nicole, that she's working in the healthcare sector, she can leverage on that. So you never know. So.
Okay. It seems almost foolish to ask, all right, what were the greatest challenges? Because you know, during COVID they were, but I'll open it up. Either of you want to address anything else about challenges or difficulties?
Yeah, so I think what I'll mention is, so I mentioned earlier that our project was probably larger than like what a typical project is for board fellows. And we were open about that right off the bat. So I think during a kickoff, when we discussed our scope with our project mentor, we're like, this is too big of a project. We need to limit the scope. And that was something that you guys instructed us to do right off the bat. So I think being transparent is important and having that open communication. We had a really good relationship with our mentor, and that we met weekly in person before COVID. And I mean, we were constantly emailing back and forth, and we were very transparent with like what our expectations are. And she was also transparent with what her expectations were. Kind of after a couple of weeks, we decided that we liked the project and we decided to go with the original scope. So, but we communicated that with her. So I think the key point of this is have that open communication. I think a lot of times you can fall into the trap of like, you don't want to say no, or because you're working for nonprofit, so you're in social impact and like you want to do as much as you can for the organization. But like they know that you're a student and you have limited bandwidth. So I would just say right off the bat, establish communication, be transparent, and let them know what your expectations are for the project. In our case, it changed from kind of wanting to limit the scope to kind of embracing the challenge.
Yeah, there have been a couple, I want to just jump in here because there have been a couple of questions about people do Berkeley Board Fellows and social sector solutions. And yes, I co-teach social sector solutions and have many of the board fellows in class in social sector solutions. The difference is this: you have a project as part of your Berkeley Board Fellows. We ask you to work like 8 to 10 hours a month on board fellows, right? And this year you'll get the units. In social sector solutions, which is a spring offering, it's a 3-unit course. It's 8 to 12 hours a week. And rather than being in pairs, you're in a team of 5. You are working directly with the McKinsey consultant who is coaching you weekly, right? So it's a heavier lifting. It's a much bigger scope. I'll give you an example. I'm talking with potential S-Cube clients right now. So one of them is an organization that builds structures for people coming out of prison that are healing spaces. Picture like, a small tiny house that's built to be healing. And because of COVID, prisoners are being released, and the demand on this organization to build many of these structures is very, very high. I should mention they build them also with the input and the labor in part with people who've come out of prison, and also with mostly women coming out of domestic violence situations, right? So it's a big strategy project. How do they get this done, right? It's from building to marketing to distribution, all of that. So the SQ projects are much bigger. The board fellows projects also have a difference in that generally you're reporting up to the board, whereas with SQ you're reporting to the executive staff. So those are some of the differences, and happy to answer more. Kyle, Adolfo, any other wisdom you would share or advice for these folks thinking about doing that this year? thinking about doing board fellows?
Yeah, I mean, I will encourage to do that even in during this time because and now that we are seeing, I think Kyle and I we agree that it's very good to see that we have a new course involved in this program. We have more materials and more resources, so that's gonna be something that you will really appreciate, independently of you do more consulting style courses or not. And I will encourage you to do that. There are many organizations that they are just so eager to have some help, and sometimes just be aware that helping it means something different from you than from the organization, but because probably you want to get like so much involvement, but they actually have their own agenda and they are super busy. They are like, as I mentioned, like freaking out with this crisis. So just be there, just be available, and just have a naive passion and a naive willingness to help and to represent HAS in the way, like in the best way you can. I think that is like way more than enough, and you will have a great experience. You will have an expanded network in a specific sector or type of institutions that is going to be very valuable, independently of not you want to go to the social sector, but if you want to go, that's even more important. So just join the program in that sense. Don't, yeah, like as Kyle mentioned, try to scope things very well from the beginning, but also try to be aware that this situation is very different from other years, and that like organizations, they will be also like more open and more flexible to work with you to have something working. Yeah.
Yeah, just to jump in, don't let my project discourage you. I know I've been talking to a number of first years, and bandwidth is pretty tight right now with the start of the semester.
Listening to something. Yeah.
And so I know you guys are out HAS, so I'm sure like a lot of you probably put something like, I want to get involved in my community on my resume and or during your essays. And like, this is a great opportunity to do that. And no better time than now, as our community needs leaders now more than ever. It was a great opportunity. In my case, working with my organization kind of allowed me to work with other organizations that were kind of tangentially related. And I kind of, though I'm still working with Lifelong, it was also kind of an inflection point to work with additional organizations. So you'll never know where it leads you. And if you're here for the right reason and you really want to get involved in the community, there's no better program at HAS than the Board Fellows.
If I can add something very quickly about that, I remember in late spring that we tried to set up an initiative for helping some organizations, they actually nonprofit or public school, district school, that they were basically having huge problems with the remote adaptation and how to still provide a value and high quality education to many children that they were not even having like the tech or the parents that were at home. The situation was very complicated. So just, I would say, leverage this unique opportunity that you have here, 3 people from HAS and then like the 5 coaches that they are doing something that I would like to have before this summer when I try to do this initiative, and is they have already kind of curated and selected organizations that are going to be willing to have a tangible project and relevant project for you. So that's something very, very useful. Like sometimes we try, as Kai was mentioned, we try to get involved in the community, but the community is not even ready to have our involvement, especially right now during the COVID, because they have their own problems. So this opportunity is unique in the sense that you're going to have a real project. You have a organization that has committed to provide you value as long as you also do your part. So that's a real benefit.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Kyle and Adolfo. I mean, you've really brought the program to life. Just a couple of things I want to kind of piggyback on. You know, the downside is that we won't have interdisciplinary pairs this year. So we won't have a business and a policy student. And we made that decision because it's a HAS program. And with a limited number of people, we just decided to make it all MBAs. So there is a loss in there. There's also a gain that may not be apparent. When I talked about the coaches, I talked about that they are experienced board members. What I didn't mention is that they're all also experienced consultants. So Paul Jansen and I co-teach solutions. Colin Boyle was a managing director at BCG. Lynn Lamarca Heinrich is a partner at Martz & Lundy, and Ervinia Waters runs her own consulting firm. And why that's important is because these are people who can help you scope the project. and scope in any project is kind of the art and science of it. Yes, it will change. And, you know, who knows what this universe is going to look like over the next year. But these people will be there to help you continue to scope as it goes along. And then the one thing I meant to say when I kicked this off and forgot, so I'm just going to put it in here, is the first time I met with our new dean, Ann Harrison, one of the first things she said to me was, you know, everywhere I go, I know about social impact. And that's what I was there to talk to her about, social impact at Haas, and how important it was, and that students are really interested in it. The first words out of her mouth were, everywhere I go, the one thing I hear about out there is about Berkeley Board Fellows. So that's what sticks from Haas. And as Adolfo or Quesada, you are representing Haas, and you're representing them in a really important way. We are a public university. You know, anybody who goes here as a student or as a faculty member or as a staff, we're privileged to work at Berkeley. And this is a way that we give back that matters and is important in the world. So just wanted to say that, and is recognized externally and by our dean. Any other questions, comments? Okay, let me ask, yeah, here we go. You know, good question, Joe, thank you. I need to double check that. I know that's what I said. And as I was saying it, I absolutely need to double check it. It may just be 1 credit. We've gone back and forth. Sorry, with the MBA office, we've gone back and forth and back and forth. I know you get 1 credit. I am not sure about 2. So I will get that out to you. My apologies. This has been a, you know, building the ship sailing experience. Thank you, Joe. Joe, did you want to say anything? Joe, Joe was in Social Sector Solutions last year and is thinking about applying to board fellows. So what's the difference? Yes, let me call on Joe, and the projects, by the way, are on the website. So if you look at under Berkeley Board Fellow projects listed, and this deck will be on our website as well. Immediate next steps. All right. Immediate next steps are apply. The application is live online at Berkeley Board Fellows. Okay, and the applications are due in the next few days. When are the applications due, Stephanie?
They are due on the 14th.
Thank you. Okay, yes. Okay, evening weekend students. Best time is probably 2nd year. It would be my guess. 3rd year is fine, but 2nd year is probably best. And Joe, I invited you up. Anything you want to add about Social Sector Solutions versus Berkeley Board Fellows? Why you've done one and now are interested in the other?
Sure, yeah, I will say that I loved Social Sector Solutions. It was a fantastic opportunity to work on an interdisciplinary team and on a project that was really meaningful to a nonprofit. I got to work on a nonprofit that was doing gun violence prevention work, and the work was just so incredibly meaningful. So first, a pitch for that. Highly recommend, really amazing experience. Second, I'm doing Berkeley Board Fellows because as much as Social Sector Solutions was an awesome opportunity, we didn't get as much chance to work with sort of the strategic drivers of the company and the big leaders of the company. We were primarily working with the VPs. So for me, this is an opportunity to have more of that higher level strategic driving role that I'm looking for. So thanks for the opportunity to speak up.
Thanks, Joe. Okay. Any final questions, comments? All right, I'll stay on here for the next few minutes. Adolfo and Kyle, if you can stay on, that would be great. And if anybody has individual questions they'd rather ask us in a smaller group, we'll stay on and be happy to answer them. Really hope you'll consider this seriously. Consider whether you can make the commitment, and if so, please apply. We'll look very forward to seeing your applications. Thanks for being here. Anybody who wants to talk to us, please come in. Oh, hi, Maddie. Thanks.
Hi, thank you. I'm gonna hop off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I did have one quick question for you.
Okay.
So I am signed up to take the nonprofit boards class this fall. So I just wanted to see if there's any concern at all about taking it prior to the spring.
It's great. It's
Okay.
great. We will get you the unit of credit for the Berkeley Board Fellows with it. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was
Sure.
wondering about the timing of that and was thinking that it would be great to do it in tandem or even before, but you know, it's a little confusing.
All right. Full disclosure. My goodness, is your name Nora?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I think I've only met like 2 in my whole life. How exciting.
I know. I say the same thing. Yeah.
Oh.
It never comes up.
Right. We actually wanted board fellows to take the fall course.
Okay.
And with the MBA program, they were just reticent to give us the unit of credit for board fellows in the fall when the final project is due in the spring. They will do it, but they were, we had had our druthers, we would have required it in the fall.
Okay. Yeah.
Problem of it doesn't start till October, drop ad was already passed. So there are logistical problems, but I think it's all things considered. I think it's great that you're taking it in the fall.
Okay, great. All right. I'm glad to hear that then.
Yeah. And you will also have one of the cases I know that Lynn is working on, the instructor, who's also one of the coaches for board fellows, is a case working with PBS, public broadcasting, dealing with racial justice issues.
Oh, wow.
Step up there. So you're in for a treat there as well.
Oh, that's great. That's definitely super relevant right now. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for that
great
preview.
Okay, since I never get to say this, nice to meet you, Nora.
Same to you, Nora. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Nora.
Hi, Mike.
Thanks for your time again and for everyone else here. But I noticed you repeatedly mentioned, not just in this brief, but also previous ones, that the primary quality that you're looking for is commitment. And I'm curious here, I imagine that this is probably coming from possibly some negative experiences in the past with past participants. So do you mind just talking in detail about that?
Yeah. So one of the problems we have had from time to time is that attendance at board meetings. Okay, they're off your schedule. They're not every week. They can be every month, every 2 months. You know, committee meetings they're not in your regular schedule. They're not baked into your regular schedule. So people will miss them. I have heard from boards that, okay, you had, final exams or something and couldn't attend a board meeting. That's what we're trying to avoid. That this becomes a serious commitment as much as any other that you make at Haas. There are some inherent challenges because you'll start board fellows, we'll match you with an organization that has meeting times that work for your fall schedule, but none of us knows your spring schedule yet. Right? So there are some tricky logistical problems here, but it really is about the attendance at the board meetings. And the only other thing I would say is not letting the project go till the very end, but working on it throughout. And working well with a partner.
Okay, thank you for specifying that.
Sure.
I can add something there because we had some experience of organizations that they also have one of the main board meetings in maybe 10th of January or 15th of January, and it's something that you don't know yet neither. Yeah, it's probably you are in Thailand. I mean, this year probably is going to be a bit different. Hopefully not, but maybe it's different. But in you can imagine last year, we were all traveling and they say, can you be here in the 10th of January? It's I'm not applying to consulting, so I'm not supposed to be back in Berkeley at this time. So yeah, I think the organizations are normally flexible, but also lay out your expectations and communicate it to your coach. So there can be different dates that they don't work.
Thanks for your feedback, Adolfo.
Yeah. I will say that a few of the mentors from the boards that the board fellows will be working with this year are either alums or one is a teacher actually at Haas now. So they'll be a little more familiar with your schedules. Tell them that, but they'll just know it more intuitively.
Thank you
Yeah,
for your
and
time,
I
everyone.
think, and I suspect this year everybody's going to have to be flexible in some ways, but we're asking you to give it your best serious effort.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you again.
Sure.